Welcome to Michael Potts F1, everything Formula 1, but from a photographer's point of view.
The 2024 drivers market. The Formula 1 drivers market is affectionately known as the silly season, and it's already kicked off in spectacular fashion. The driver market was completely stagnant for the first time ever in the history of Formula 1, at the end of 2023 and the start of 2024, each team fielding exactly the same drivers. But now it is all up in the air. In this video, I'm going to have a look at which drivers could go where and who holds the key to unlocking the drivers market, when we might see announcements, and what the latest gossip and rumours are coming out of the Formula 1 paddock. Currently, there are 11 drivers who do not have a contract in place for next year. That's more than half the field. So let's go through what we already know. In breaking news, Nico Hülkenberg has just signed a multi-year deal with Audi Sauber. The reports are that it's a 3-year deal. This is a great move for both team and driver. It gives Audi one of the best qualifiers in the sport. It's also very handy that he happens to be German, and he's someone who has won Le Mans with the VW group before. And it links him up with Andrea Stella, the man in charge of that Le Mans winning project with Porsche. He also happens to be a very handsome lad, which is a marketeer's dream. He has had a previous stint with Sauber in 2013, and now Nico gets to be part of a very ambitious works team with time to build something interesting. Fernando Alonso signed a multi-year deal with Aston Martin recently. He says this is the longest deal of his life, but it's probably a 2-year deal that includes some post-racing ambassador or managerial role, something for him to do once his career is over. It gives Aston the marquee driver it desires, and one that proves week in and week out that he's at the top of his game. With the championship-winning Honda engines coming to Aston Martin in 2026, this could be a really good opportunity for Alonso to claim that elusive next win. The dramatic move before the start of the season saw Lewis Hamilton move to Ferrari on a 2-year deal. That's the move that triggered the whole silly season mayhem. And this is another great move for both team and driver. Ferrari now have a mega team with 2 of the best drivers on the grid, and this will be a real challenge for all of their rivals. Ferrari is a very good bet for Hamilton, as it's a manufacturer team, and it will be a strong position when the rules change in 2026. Ferrari also have Charles Leclerc on a long-term deal. I don't know too much on the details of this, other than when the team announced it, they said it was for several more years. It probably goes into 2028, and it is reported that he's earning $34 million per year. That's before bonuses and sponsorship deals. Red Bull have Max Verstappen under contract until 2028, but there is an asterisk on this, and I'll come to that later. The Dutchman is one of the cornerstones of the team, and someone that everything at Red Bull is built around. His contract is estimated to be about $55 million per year, again without bonuses or sponsorships, and he's currently the highest paid driver in Formula 1. Mercedes have George Russell signed until the end of 2025. It has been a bit of a difficult time for Russell at the Silver Arrows. Not only has he been battling with a difficult race car, but he's also been up against one of the greats in his teammate. His $18 million a year contract shows that Mercedes do have faith in him, and that if he's provided with a winning car, he would succeed. McLaren were quick to sign both of their drivers on long-term deals. Potentially, they saw that there might be coming turmoil in the drivers' market. Both Lando Norris, who's reported to be earning $20 million a year, and Oscar Piastri, who's rumoured to be on about $6 million, will be with the team until the end of 2026. This was a very strategic move by McLaren, as they've managed to lock down both of their exceptionally talented drivers, and both of these drivers would be targets for much larger teams with deeper pockets. The last secured driver is Alex Albon, although I bet he wishes he was a free agent right now, with so many seats up in the air. He's on a $3 million a year contract, and this ends in 2025. And that's a little bit of an awkward time because there might not be that many seats available, as most drivers will be trying to secure multi-year deals. So the current grid looks like this, and as you can see, there's many open seats. So now let's look at which drivers will be going where in 2025. Let's start with the driver that's probably in most teams' shortlist in some form or the other, Carlos Sainz. He is out of contract with Ferrari at the end of the year, but he's a huge talent and he's done incredibly well. He is the only non-Red Bull driver to win a race since George Russell won the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2022. And not only has he won one, but he's won 2 Grand Prix. The second driver is Sergio Perez. While he's often unfairly compared to Max, he is a very successful driver. He's won 5 Grand Prix, and he was second in the Drivers' Championship last year. Perez also comes with significant sponsorship. The next drivers, in no particular order, include Esteban Ocon, the former Mercedes junior who's currently driving for Alpine, He's a former race winner, and he's currently driving incredibly well, even if his car isn't that great. His teammate and fellow countryman Pierre Gasly is also a former race winner and also out of contract. Both VCARB drivers are out of contract at the end of the year. Multiple race winner Daniel Ricciardo, and exciting young Japanese driver Yuki Tsunoda. We have Valtteri Bottas, the Sauber driver. He is a former race winner and a very, very quick driver. We also have Bottas' teammate at Sauber, Zhou Guanyu, who is in his third season in Formula 1, and he's reported to have about $20 million in sponsorship. He might be able to add more to that after the successful Chinese Grand Prix. We also have Kevin Magnussen, the Haas driver, who had a great 2022, but so far has fallen behind his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. Logan Sargent, currently driving for Williams, is the only American on the grid, and Logan is reported to bring a large sponsorship package to the team. Currently, he is in his second season. And finally, we have Lance Stroll, who's sort of in a category of one, because although he's listed as not having a contract yet for next year, he is almost certainly going to be racing for Aston Martin, partly because he is the son of billionaire team owner Lawrence Stroll, and it's hard to see the team existing without his dad's investment, or without his son driving for them. So those are the current drivers, but we do have some challenges. Here are the junior drivers who are potentially knocking on Formula 1 door and are currently driving in the feeder series. Firstly, there's Kimi Antonelli, the new Mercedes wunderkid. He is only 17 years old and has already jumped to F2, bypassing F3. Currently, he's 9th in the standings with the best result of 4th this year. He has won everything possible in the junior categories up to this point, and Mercedes are doing everything possible to prepare him for a Formula 1 seat next year. We also have his Formula 2 Prema teammate, Oliver Behrman. He is Ferrari's brightest prospect, and we all saw him race brilliantly this year in Jeddah, where he stood in for the injured Carlos Sainz. Zane Maloney is a Sauber reserve driver, and he's currently the Formula 2 championship leader. He had an excellent double win in Bahrain, which is something that's quite difficult to do in Formula 2. The fourth driver to keep an eye out in this group is Isaac Hadjar. He is the best placed Red Bull Junior currently in Formula 2. He is sitting in 4th place and the winner of the last Formula 2 race. There are also a number of current reserve drivers in contention. Liam Lawson is a Red Bull Junior driver. He stood in for Daniel Ricciardo for 5 races last season and performed superbly. It is rumoured that Red Bull have promised him a Formula 1 seat in 2025. There is Felipe Dragovic at Aston Martin. He dominated Formula 2 in 2022. He achieved one of the largest margins of victory over his rivals in the history of the series. Théo Pourchaire is last year's Formula 2 champion, and he is the other reserve driver at Sauber. Mick Schumacher won the F2 title in 2020 and raced for 2 years for Haas. He's now a Mercedes reserve, and he's looking for an opportunity to get back onto the grid. There's Antonio Giovinazzi and Robert Schwartzman, both are Ferrari reserve drivers. It might be a longer shot for either of these two to make it onto the grid. But finally we have Jack Doohan, the son of motorcycling ace Mick Doohan. Jack is the Alpine reserve driver and was 3rd in Formula 2 last season. So now we know who the contenders are, let's look at each team and see what is available where. Starting with the most sought after available seat in the house. And no, this is not the second Red Bull seat, because the second driver alongside Max Verstappen has really struggled. You might be in a championship winning car, but Max has every fibre of that team aligned around his success. And I think being his teammate would just be depressing. Since Max joined the team in 2016, his car has won 58 Grand Prix. He has 28 second places and has been 3rd 15 times. Meaning that car has been on the podium 101 times. Contrast that to the second car, which has only won 9 races, had 19 second places and 23 thirds, totaling 51 podium appearances, a half of what Max has achieved. And that car has been driven by Daniel Ricciardo, Pierre Gasly, Alex Albon and Sergio Perez. So I think the best seat available, and this is potentially looking at 2026 more than 2025, is the Mercedes second seat. Mercedes dominated the early hybrid years after producing the best engine in Formula 1. There is a very good chance that they could do that again. If that was the case, this seat could be a real championship contender. The most likely candidate at the moment looks like it's Kimi Antonelli. Mercedes are giving him everything he needs to prepare for a career in Formula 1, almost writing off 2025 and focusing the whole team's attention on 2026 alongside George. Other options they could go for, if they don't think the young Italian is quite ready, would be Carlos Sainz. This would be a direct swap with Lewis Hamilton at Ferrari. They could also go for Alex Albon at Williams. Mercedes would need to buy him out, or maybe do a deal where Kimi races for Williams for a few years, something similar to what they did with Bottas when Rosberg retired. The downside for them going for any other driver other than Kimi is that they're going to feel that they're just keeping his seat warm. But there is also a very left field possibility. Max Verstappen might engineer a move away from Red Bull before his contract is up, and he would be the number one target for Mercedes. If you'd asked me after qualifying in Jeddah, I would have said with 100% certainty that this was going to happen. But since then, the drama at Red Bull has subsided and everything's calmed down a bit. But I don't think this is the last we'll hear of it, and I think it would be a very smart move by Max to move to a team which has a proven history in creating brilliant engines. Mercedes will want to keep their options open for as long as possible, so don't expect any announcements from them anytime soon. This timescale could be problematic for someone like Carlos Sainz. Sergio Perez is the driver in possession in the second Red Bull seat, but he does have the sword of Damocles dangling above his head. He is doing very well this season, and in all likeliness he will retain his drive. There are a few contenders, including Carlos Sainz, who has been spending a lot of time with Red Bull management in a number of the races so far this year, and I did manage to get this shot of him shaking hands with Christian Horner in Shanghai. Daniel Ricciardo is another candidate. His slow start to the season means that he has a very, very short time to prove an awful lot. And let's be real here. At the moment, Ricciardo has a greater chance of being sacked by VCarb than being promoted to the Red Bull seat. Yuki Tsunoda technically has a shot, but I do feel the Red Bull management are a bit cold on this idea. If Max were to leave, I suspect Red Bull will come after Lando Norris and try and buy him out of his contract. They have already approached him in the past, but he very wisely declined the offer to become Max's teammate. Red Bull tend to resolve their lineups fairly early, so we could expect an announcement around the summer break. Aston Martin have one seat free on paper, but it's very hard to see an alternative to Lance Stroll in the slot. The only left field that I could possibly think of is Yuki Tsunoda coming in as part of a Honda deal. And this really would only take place if Lance decides to walk away. But a Yuki Tsunoda-Fernando Alonso pairing would be dynamite to watch. Kick Sauber will become Audi in 2026. They've already made one big move, signing Nico Hülkenberg on a multi-year deal. This is a bit of a risky seat. There is huge potential in this becoming a very successful works team, but building a Formula 1 engine is complex. Just look how long it took Honda to produce something that started winning races and championships. And then there's Renault, which still hasn't produced a great engine. And while all the teams will be building a brand new engine for 2026, all the other manufacturers have years of experience to work off. Audi don't. Then there is the chassis side. The current team doesn't appear to have nailed that either. So either that's down to lack of funding, or the current team doesn't have the ability to produce a car that's a contender in the pre-Audi years. So it's a big ask to convince a high-profile driver to come over to a team when there's very little evidence of its immediate success. Their main target is Carlos Sainz. He does have ties to the team. His father recently won the Paris-Dakar with Audi. But Carlos is going to try and wait until the doors firmly close at Red Bull and Mercedes. He is both of those teams' plan B, and maybe it makes more sense for him to move to a team where he is the number one priority, such as Audi. If Audi fail to secure Sainz, they could keep current driver and part-time naturalist Valtteri Bottas, who's done a solid job since joining from Mercedes, or they could go for Esteban Ocon or Alex Albon. Ocon would probably be the more attractive driver, given he's a race winner and he is the more experienced of the two. Talking of his current team, Alpine, they are the final works team to look at, but given the current state of things, they don't appear to be an attractive offer. It's believed that both drivers are looking for a way out of the team. There are also rumours running around that the team could be sold. We know that the engine is underpowered. Of the two, Ocon is having the better season. His determination and positive attitude have been really impressive in difficult circumstances. The most likely situation is that both drivers will remain here. In an extreme situation, both could leave. And in this case, the team would probably promote junior driver Jack Doohan. He was very quick in F2, but a bit rough around the edges. In the other seat, they'll probably go for an experienced driver such as Valtteri Bottas or Alex Albon. VCarb will hopefully have a better name in 2025, but let's not hold out for miracles. There is a good chance that the lineup could remain the same here as well. Ricciardo has shown signs of improvement in the last race. We could get to the end of the season where both drivers having performed very well, but neither having done enough to displace Sergio Perez. In the unlikely event that Yuki Tsunoda leaves to join Aston Martin as some part of the Honda project, the opening would most likely be filled by Liam Lawson. But there are other ways that Red Bull could get Lawson onto the grid next year. Williams, for example, they're in an interesting position. They currently have Alex Albon, who appears to have signed till 2025. Williams do want to lock him down on a long-term contract, and Albon wants to keep his options open for now. The most likely outcome is that he will stay with the team. He is currently many teams' plan B, and he could end up anywhere from Red Bull, Mercedes, Audi, Alpine. But in the extreme case where Max moves to Mercedes and Lando goes to Red Bull, I can see Albon ending up at McLaren. This would be a great fit for both team and driver. The other side of the garage is a little bit more complex. Currently, Logan Sargent hasn't done enough to justify a place in 2025. There is even talk that he could be replaced before the end of the year, if Kimi Antonelli is pushed forward by Mercedes. It is a little bit tricky to see which driver would get his seat next year, and this might be one of the last places to be filled. It's likely that this will go to one of the larger teams trying to find a placement for one of their drivers, such as Red Bull's Liam Lawson. It could also be home to Kimi Antonelli if Mercedes decide it's too early for a step up to the main team. It could also be home for Aston Martin's Felipe Drugovich. The final team is Haas, and we know that they've lost experienced driver Nico Hülkenberg. They are likely to replace him with Oliver Behrmann. He is a Ferrari junior and he's worked with the team successfully before. He is a great talent and will add value to the team. On the other side of the garage, longtime Haas driver Kevin Magnussen has been outperformed by his teammate Nico Hülkenberg. But prior to that, he was the team's #1 driver. Does he still have the desire to continue? Or could Haas find someone more attractive in this volatile driver market? The team are performing well this year, and if Ferrari produce a strong engine in 2026, this could be a good option for a lot of drivers. The new leadership structure appears to be working very well, but the team has always been underfunded, and it might look for a driver to add some cash as well as speed. The most experienced options likely to be available would be Valtteri Bottas. He'd be giving the team some personality that it lost when Steiner had left. The Finnish Australian could be an American icon. Alternatively, it could be a refuge for someone like Sergio Perez if he fails to keep his Red Bull seat. This will not only bring a very fast and experienced driver to Haas, but someone who comes with a sizable sponsorship package. Re-signing Magnussen would also be an option. There is very little chance that they'll sign a second junior alongside Behrmann. This didn't work out well for the team in 2021, and I think it's too soon for them to try it again. So here is my most likely grid. At Red Bull, I expect them to continue with Max and Sergio. Mercedes will probably go for George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. Ferrari, we know, will have Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton. McLaren will continue with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. And likewise, there'll be no change at Aston Martin with Fernando Alonso and Lance Stroll. I don't see a change either at Alpine with Esteban Ocon and Pierre Gasly. VCARB would continue with Yuki Tsunoda and Daniel Ricciardo. Williams are set to continue with Alex Albon and take on Red Bull Jr. Liam Lawson. And I think Sauber Audi will have their dream drivers of Carlos Sainz and Nico Hülkenberg. And finally, Haas could have Oliver Behrmann and Valtteri Bottas. That, I think, is the most likely outcome. But things could go completely crazy and we end up with something like this. Red Bull having Norris and Sainz, Mercedes with a powerful lineup of Verstappen and Russell, Ferrari having Leclerc and Hamilton, McLaren fielding Piastri and Albon, Aston Martin trying Alonso and Tsunoda. At Alpine we could see Bottas and Doohan, VCARB with Ricciardo and Lawson, Williams with Gasly and Kimi Antonelli, Audi with drivers Hülkenberg and Ocon, and finally Haas with Perez and Behrmann. So what do you think? Which would you prefer to see? Please do let me know in the comments below, but before you go, there's one important piece of the puzzle that we need to look at. There are very, very strong rumours that a silly season could extend beyond the drivers and include design genius Adrian Newey, who it appears is set to leave Red Bull. Now, he could end up at Ferrari or Aston Martin or in retirement. This is huge because Adrian Newey is on a completely different level to all other designers. His cars have won over 200 Grand Prix. He has 12 constructor titles with 3 different teams. He has 13 driver titles with 7 different Formula 1 drivers. The only thing missing on his CV is winning a championship with Ferrari and working with Lewis Hamilton. He is apparently no longer happy at Red Bull, where the politicking has become rife, and his move could trigger an exit of key personnel as the most successful team in Formula 1 in recent time implodes.
Thank you so much for joining me for this look into the driver's market. I really do hope you've enjoyed it. Next stop is Miami. So until then, goodbye.